some examples, we'll look at a study problem and then some different sampling ideas and see if we can classify them. So for this first example, we're doing a study here. And Las Positas College wants to know the most effective way to contact students via email, snail mail, or telephone. An alphabetical list of all current LPC students is created. A survey is sent to every 20th student on the list. 75% of the students prefer email. The survey response rate was 5%, and the population of LPC students is about 10,000. Okay, so let's see what our population of interest would be. Now, as we're reading through here, let's kind of underline some of the most important terms. Okay, so what we want to know, that would be a important thing there. We want to know the most effective way to contact students. So who we're focusing on, our population here, the who is students. And remember, the population is the big overall group, so all LPC students. Okay, and then what is the sample? Let's read on here a bit. There's our potential responses, email, snail mail, or telephone. By the way, what data type would that be? Where we see these three potential responses for our variable there. This would be qualitative data. Okay, so there's a little extra review for you. All right, we're looking at qualitative data, and then we make an alphabetical list of all the students, and the survey is sent to every 20th student on the list. Okay, so we're not asking everybody, we're only asking this survey group. So that is our sample. We didn't ask the whole population, just students who received the survey. Okay, so students who received the survey. Okay, so in order to create that sample, what type of sampling was used? Well, let's look for our sampling technique here. We see that the survey is sent to every 20th student on the list. So that fits into our idea of, what is it now? That is systematic random sampling. So we have some starting point. I'm guessing probably the first student is our starting point since it didn't specify, but the survey is sent to every 20th student on the list. So that is a clear systematic, skip 20 students type of thing. Okay, systematic. Okay. And from that sample, we find that 75% of the students prefer email. But the last part of the question here is, do you trust that result? Why or why not? You think about that for just a second. You can pause the video here if you'd like. But personally, I would not really trust that result, not in a scientific sense here. All right. I mean, intuitively, this kind of sounds right to me. Students preferring email, I think that is generally kind of the most common way to communicate these days. But as far as the way this study was conducted, I wouldn't really trust that result. And the reason why is because of the part in parentheses here, the last sentence. The survey response rate was 5%. The population of LPC students is about 10,000. So if we take that, let's take that off to the side here for just a sec. Okay, so the population is 10,000 students. Okay, we only surveyed every 20th student. All right, so every 20th student, that means we're going to divide our population by 20 to see how many people actually got the survey. So 10,000 over 20 divided by 20 equals 500 students that were surveyed. Okay, so 500 students got the survey, and that's not too bad. But then bring in that response rate. Okay, the survey response rate was 5%. So only 5% of these people actually sent in a response. So let's look at that. Response rate of 5%. That would take our 500 people who got the survey and times our percentage, 5% as a decimal is 0.05. And when we multiply that, we get 25 students who actually responded. Okay, 25 responses. So what we're seeing there is that only 25 students actually sent in a response and said 75% of those said they would prefer email. But that low response rate really makes this kind of questionable. That's a pretty small number of students who actually ended up participating in this. So 25 students here are trying to represent the overall population. So I'll put representing in quotes there. So 25 students that submitted the survey are allegedly representing the 10,000 students at the college. So that's a little questionable in my opinion. So yeah, I would not particularly trust that result. You'd need to do a better survey, but yeah, we've got our answer there. Okay, now let's take a look at our next example here. And in this one, we're going to determine the type of sampling used. So the ones we get to choose from are simple random sampling, stratified sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, or convenience sampling. Remember that these four are pretty good random sampling techniques. Convenience sampling is not quite like the others because it usually tends to be a biased sample. Okay, so for our first one here, a soccer coach selects 6 players from a group of boys aged 8 to 10, 7 players from a group of boys aged 11 to 12, and 3 players from a group of boys aged 13 to 14 to form a recreational soccer team. Okay, so what we got to look at here is this coach selecting just from the overall population? That would be like a or simple random sample or stratified, or sorry, systematic would be from the overall. But he's not taking this sample from the overall population. He's made groups, is what I was getting at there. So he's got a group of boys age 8 to 10, another group 11 to 12, and then another group 13 to 14. So he has created some groups there by age. And then take a look at how many players he's selecting from each group. We'll notice that it's not an equal number of players, and it's not everyone from that group. So he's not taking the whole group of boys aged 8 to 10. he's picking 6 players from that group. So that leads us to the conclusion that this is a stratified sampling technique. Stratified. Because he's created groups, that tells us it's either stratified or cluster. And then he's not taking the full group, he's just picking a certain number from each group. So that's why we choose stratified instead of cluster. So you could make yourself a little note here if you'd like that the strata were created by age. Okay, strata are the age groups. Okay, let's look at the next one here. A pollster interviews all human resource personnel in 5 different high-tech companies. Okay, so our population appears to be high-tech companies. And let's see. Well, this is not simple random. It's not systematic because we're not like skipping a certain number here. So we've got either stratified or cluster, looks like. And then to break that down, notice that the person is interviewing all the personnel from 5 different companies. So they're taking all of the personnel, human resource personnel, from some groups here. That is a cluster sample. Okay, so cluster sampling. Okay, next one. A high school educational researcher interviews 50 high school female teachers and 50 high school male teachers. Okay, so there is some sort of groups being made here. We have female teachers and male teachers. And it looks like we are not taking all the female teachers and all the male teachers. So this would be another example of stratified sampling. Stratified. And the strata here are a little different than in the previous stratified example. Here, the groups are created by the sex of the individuals, female and male in this case. I guess they were not considering intersex, but yeah, so we've got a stratified sample there. On the next one, a medical researcher interviews every 3rd cancer patient from a list of cancer patients at a local hospital. Well, there's a big clue here. Every 3rd cancer patient. So that is straight up the systematic sampling technique. Okay, so we've got a starting point and then we're taking every 3rd person from that list. Next, a high school counselor uses a computer to generate 50 random numbers and then picks students whose names correspond to the numbers. Okay, so this counselor is picking students, it looks like, out of the general population of students at the school. There's no description of any groups in there. There's no description of a system, like every 4th student or anything. This counselor is just using the computer to generate 50 random numbers. This is simple random sampling. Okay, not breaking it down any further, but you get your random numbers, you pick the corresponding students. All right. And then the last one, a student interviews classmates in his algebra class to determine how many pairs of jeans a student owns on average. Okay, so this, let's see, there's Well, there's a group described, the algebra class, but that's not really leading us towards stratified or cluster sampling because there's no other groups. It's just his algebra class. And yeah, the student is just interviewing his own classmates and he's generalizing it to the overall population of students. This is just convenience sampling. The student is just picking other students who are close to him, they're in his class, they're convenient, to come up with his data. So well, this may not be a problem. I mean, maybe his algebra class is a great representation of the student population. It could be, but generally, we'd like to see something a bit more random and not just that convenience factor, because maybe they're not a great representation of the population. We're not sure, but it's a convenient sample, and there's some different classifications of sampling techniques.